This puzzle is a fascinating adventure into the geometry of parallel lines. But first, who is the Somerton Man, and why is his necktie even a puzzle? Well, he was an unidentified man found dead on a beach in Australia in 1948. The video you are watching right now is recorded over 70 years after the fact, and at the time of this recording, we still don't know the man's identity. It has been an enduring mystery. I started investigating the case of the Somerton Man in 2007. Stumped for ideas, around 2010 I stared at his photo, looking for clues about his origin. I wondered if his striped tie had any significance. Then it struck me, the stripes slant in the opposite direction to what we normally see here in Australia. So I read about the history of striped ties and found that Australians follow the British tradition of stripes going right to left, and it is Americans who traditionally wear the stripes in the opposite direction. It's rather like the convention of driving cars on the left or right, and the Somerton Man's tie stripes follow the US convention. In the USA, this particular tie's color pattern is called Old Brightonian. Now, the conventional way to refer to the British tie stripe direction is to say heart to sword. Why? Because if we draw a line between the heart and sword, British stripes go in this direction. Let's take a look at a sample of US presidents and British prime ministers. I've missed many out as not all were actually into striped ties in the first place. On the top row we have Calvin Klein, John F. Kennedy, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton. On the bottom row we have Neville Chamberlain, Clement Attlee, Harold Macmillan, John Major, Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. Notice how ties on the bottom row are all heart to sword, and in the top row the stripes slant in the reverse direction. The tradition was fairly strict in the 1920s to 1980s, but as we get more into modern times, you can spot them with both types of ties in practice. Perhaps due to online ordering maybe. Ties can come from anywhere these days. Though these two presidents both wear British stripes most of the time, this illustrates that you can't rely on this tradition today. But in 1948, it was a reasonably solid tradition. Now, here's a photo taken in the early 1980s of the Somerton Man's possessions held in a police storage room. The man had travelled from wherever he came from just before he died, and that's why he had a suitcase. Notice here is the Old Brightonian tie he was wearing when he was found dead. But here is another striped tie. Here is a non-striped tie, so we're going to ignore that. Here are two other striped ties. So let's blow up the image of his 4 striped ties. Unfortunately, the suitcase and its contents began to smell in the 1980s, and the police decided to throw all this stuff out. It was never classed as a homicide, and so there was no imperative to keep his possessions. So all we have is the police photo to go by. Here's the puzzle. Is it possible to tell if these ties have a UK or a US stripe? What does your intuition say? Is it impossible because we have no idea of the orientation of the ties? Or is it possible? The answer is it's possible, and the trick we use to solve this problem is something scientists call invariance. What properties of the stripes are invariant to orientation? That's what we will now work out. As we can see here, slanted stripes are really interesting as the slant direction is invariant to whether I turn the tie upside down or flip it over. If I rotate the tie to any angle, I can easily rotate it back and see the stripes are unchanged. So the stripes are totally invariant to any transformation in space. The only way to flip them back is to look in a mirror, but that's not the issue here. Another strange thing you might observe is the stripes on the knot appear to go in the opposite direction to the tie stripes. So what on earth is going on here? Well, look at it like this. If I bend the knot over, it's actually in line with the tie stripes. So using this trick, we can work it out. Notice we can work out the last 3 ties because we can see the stripes, so they all get a tick. Unfortunately, the first tie is so tangled that we don't see clear stripes in the first place, so that's why there's an X there. Here we can easily see the direction of the slant for the 3 ties, and due to invariance, it doesn't matter that we don't know the original orientation of the ties. And it doesn't matter that we can't work out the tangled tie because we have another photo of him wearing it. So we already knew in advance that that one had US stripes. So here's the final answer. 2 of his tie follow the US and 2 follow the US convention. So the bottom line is we have a null result. We can't use this information alone to indicate whether he was from the US or not. We have to search for clues elsewhere for his origin. Can you spot the deliberate mistake in this video? I said this president was Calvin Klein. It's actually Calvin Coolidge. Here's something to ponder on. Can you think of any problems in maths or science that first look too complicated to solve and then by invoking invariance, the solutions fall into place easily?